you want to go ahead and start taking calls?
I'm ready for calls, sure.
Okay, so we've got one call at least waiting. I know there's others that are getting ready to queue up. The number's on the screen. As a reminder, if you don't get through today or you don't want to, you can email tv@atheist-community.org, and we'll do what we can to get you an answer. But we've got, is it Stefan?
Yes, it is, yes.
From New York, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
Not bad.
Okay, well, as I pointed out, I'm a theist, and, you know, the argument has been presented that Christians have no proof for their position, and the atheist, he has evolution and the evidence to present it. And my question is, have we as human beings witnessed our own birth? And the question is that we really and truly accept that the person who's our mother, we accept it by faith, really and truly, because, you know, you really didn't see it unless, of course, it was videotaped. You know, it's not until later someone who's probably adopted is then told later that this person was not your birth mother. So I'm saying that generally, even with the Big Bang, no one realistically saw it, so it can be done from a standpoint of faith, because it is really something that you believe in without having to see. And it's the same thing for theists as well.
Okay, there's about 6 things that are kind of wrong that I want to address, and I'll trade off, and I'm sure Jeff spotted all 6 of them as well. The first thing is that atheism and evolution are in no way tied together. My atheism is not dependent on an acceptance of evolution or anything else. It is entirely dependent on the theistic claims have not met their burden of proof. So that's number one. The other is that your example of having to take it on faith that your mother is your mother is not true. I mean, first of all, we can do DNA testing to verify that my mother is my mother. And that also applies to questions about Big Bang origins. The Big Bang cosmology is a scientific theory that made testable predictions. And then we went out and verified those predictions by observing the cosmic microwave background radiation, etc. This wasn't just a hunch that we're accepting on faith. It is the best explanation that is supported by evidence.
Okay, furthermore, there's a scientist called Dr. Robert Gentry. I don't know if you've heard of him.
How did we get to furthermore?
Because if I can understand your point of view from saying that, because I did present in my question an opposite point of view, that the person can know it if whatever it is, I guess, based on it being videotaped or, as you said, DNA testing.
So I'm confused, though, because you presented some things, I responded to them, and then without acknowledging whether you agreed with my response or not, you just said furthermore and wanted to move on.
Okay, I agree that, yes, with DNA testing, that, yes, the person can know that.
Okay.
But I agree from that point. I don't disagree. So that my not acknowledging maybe that I would have agreed with what you said. So
that's fine.
Okay. So as I said, furthermore, I'm asking, have you heard of the scientist Dr. Robert Gentry?
That name's not familiar.
Okay, he's a theist scientist who, throughout the 70s and 80s, was able to look at the introduction of polonium halos and their ability to, or their responsibility for the existence of granite. And he was able to look at their half-life, which was about, I believe, 3.5 minutes.
Oh.
And it was extremely short. And in his publishings, it made scientists start to wonder if what he's saying is true, because for that to have such a short half-life is almost, as to say, instantaneous, which goes along with creation, and the Bible which says that when God spoke, things came into existence immediately. And, there has been very good evidence. He's gone through the different polonium halos, and many a times when he wrote to the journals, if there's freedom of speech, no one has to tell him that he can't write this or write that, because he's presented it and they've told him to revise it. And the only reason was that they had problems with it because it seemed to be endorsing and actually proving creation to be true. So I'm saying that, once again,
May I?
Yes.
if there's freedom of speech, freedom of the press, he should have been allowed to publish that without them having to tell him to revise it and put something different.
Hey, Stefan?
Yeah.
When did he come up with this? You said in the 70s?
Around the late 70s to the early 80s.
Okay, so...
He wrote a book called Creation's Tiny Mystery.
Okay, so that's 30... What am I? I'm having trouble doing the math in my head. 40 years ago?
Probably around 30
okay, 30 years ago. Yeah. And how much traction is that getting in the scientific community?
Right. It's been published for quite a number of years.
Yeah.
And there has been a push by creationists to be able to, based on this evidence and other evidence from...
No, but but hold on. The point of... what I'm asking is, tell me about all the other scientists who are reviewing his work and finding out that he is correct and that the scientific community is coming over to his way of thinking. Is that the case? Because
there have been some based on the judges who have reviewed his work, and there have been some who've actually said that he has some credibility.
Some is not how it works in science, right? There's a lot of scientists out there, and a guy comes up with a claim. Anybody can say anything. The question is, after 30 years, is this guy's claim making? Is it taking over the scientific worldview? Is it?
It's not taken over because the majority of the world doesn't believe in scientific evidence for creation.
So you're saying that there's this guy who has got a claim, he made it 30 years ago, and the only reason it hasn't been accepted by the rest of the scientific community is because they are prejudiced.
Yes.
Okay, well...
If you actually go, for example, to talk origins, as I just did, because this was ringing a bell, not his name, but what you actually talked about, there's an extremely thorough debunking. It goes point by point to the fact that his model violates general relativity. His NRI model can reproduce observed features of the universe only by adjusting parameters in the model by hand. They list each of the actual flaws in these, and flaws for which evidently Gentry and his supporters don't have a response to. So I'm not an expert in this thing, and it doesn't really matter to me that some, as Jeff was pointing out, that some scientist has come up with a theory, for example, that some other scientists happen to agree with. I'm only going to accept something when the preponderance of evidence says so. When you claim that this is being refused because scientists have some conspiracy bias against something that would disconfirm creation, first of all, I don't believe that that's remotely true. But second of all, the reason that I don't think it's remotely true is that his theory does not confirm biblical creation or any other creation. It is just a different model of the universe. There is nothing that says, let's assume, for example, that his model was actually correct. You cannot draw a line from his model being correct to therefore what the Bible has to say about creation is necessarily correct, and therefore there is a God. Finding something that is consistent with a biblical creation account does not prove that that's what actually happened. And in this case, his model is wrong.
Yeah. Now, and one more thing, Stefan. I mean, you can say that the only reason that that the scientific community has not accepted this guy's views is because they're all part of a conspiracy to not accept it. But you know what else you can say? You can say that the only reason that this guy and his supporters proposed their views in the first place is because they're part of a conspiracy to get their views accepted. Either side can play that game. Let's not play that game. Let's look at the evidence, and that's what scientists do. That's their job, is to look at the evidence and see if it supports a theory or not.
Right. Anthropology is a science as well, right?
Sure, and?
And many in anthropology have discovered things that have supported the Bible, in terms of...
Are we off on yet another claim? We're still talking about what
Okay, we'll keep on
Jensen?
Gentry.
The point is, you cannot make your case by saying, I've got one lone scientist and a small group of believers who all say this one thing that isn't accepted by the scientific community, therefore that's evidence that my beliefs are true. That just doesn't wash.
Okay, I will not jump around for you, but
okay.
The fact that, there are many, as I say, science, because, Gentry is just, one of the few that do support this claim. And, just as I was saying, as I asked you, if anthropology itself is a science, and in their digging, those physical anthropologists who go out there and dig up and discover things that do support it.
Such as?
You have anthropologists who dig, who make excavation digs.
Okay, let's cut to the chase.
Things that
let's cut to the... I'm sorry. Stefan, may I?
Yeah. Well,
so let's cut to the chase. What have they discovered? Have they discovered anything that's evidence that any supernatural events ever occurred?